Toku Quickie Fun Facts number 24 to 27. A missed dedication to Tsuburaya-san. Despite his failing health, Eiji Tsuburaya was extremely optimistic about the upcoming 1970 feature, Space Amoeba, with him even planning to serve as the special effects supervisor, while Sadamasa Arakawa, one of his protégés, would serve as director of special effects. Tragically, 2 days after the start of filming, Eiji Tsuburaya passed away from a heart attack on January 25, 1970. In hopes to honor their legendary mentor, several staff members proposed that the movie should be dedicated to Mr. Tsuburaya's memory, a proposal Toho ultimately rejected. Arakawa was especially angered by this rejection, so much so that he refused to talk about the film later in his life. A face of a king and a moth. Towards the end of Mothra vs. Godzilla, Godzilla is wading his way towards Iwo Island. Notice that he was only filmed from directly behind, obscuring his face. This was because Haruo Nakajima was actually wearing the Kinya Goji suit from King Kong vs. Godzilla. Kinya Goji was used once more in the final shot of the web-coated Godzilla falling off a cliff and down to the ocean below. This was done because Toho wanted to reuse the Masa Goji suit for the next sequel, Ghidorah, the Three-Headed Monster, which was a last-minute idea suddenly approved by the studio. The effects team wanted to protect their newly made Godzilla suit from deterioration sustained from water, so Masa Goji was substituted for Kinya Goji, always keeping its face masked from the camera, as audiences would have easily spotted the obvious facial difference between the two suits. Early ideas for the Zone siblings. In an early conceptual idea for the Zone Fighter series, Zone Angel was able to turn into a giantess to fight the Terror Beast alongside her brother, Zone Fighter. Her giant form also would have been equipped with a meteor missile might, the same as Zone Fighter. Had this idea been retained, she would have been the first giant henshin heroine. Hotaru, her human alter ego, would have had a love for pandas. Additionally, she would have been protected by a mascot monster named Pandaran, which was a kind of puppet creature she held close to her arm. When the danger became too great, Pandaran would change into human size to fight the interlopers. In the same early draft, the youngest sibling, Akira, couldn't transform into Zone Jr., as we see him in the series, and he never participated in any battles. In the actual show, the three siblings can change into their Zone form whenever they choose, but in the early draft, they could only transform upon shaking hands with another member of their family. Biollante started with Ultraman Jack. The plot of Godzilla vs. Biollante was born from a story that was selected from a public story writing contest conjured up by producer Tomoyuki Tanaka. The chosen entry was written by a dentist named Shinichiro Kobayashi, who used the hypothetical death of his daughter as inspiration for the story. His submission focused on the issues of biotechnology and a scientist grieving the death of his daughter, whose soul he attempted to keep alive by merging her genes with a plant. His experiment resulted in the creation of a creature that was both human and plant, which would do battle with Godzilla. Biollante wasn't the only plant monster or tokusatsu story written by Mr. Kobayashi. In 1971, when he was just 16 years old, he wrote episode 34 of The Return of Ultraman, The Life That Can't Be Forgiven. The plot circled around a scientist who experimented with the fusion of animal cells with plants. These tests ultimately created a plant-animal hybrid named Leogun, who later escapes from the lab and makes his way to a nearby lake, where he soon grows to gigantic proportions. Ultraman Jack shows up to do battle with the mutation, ultimately ending with the monster's death in the lake where he first reached his giant size. A true G-fan can easily spot the parallels between this episode and Godzilla vs. Biollante. While the episode doesn't explicitly say so, it's been said that the lake where Leogon makes his escape is Lake Ashi, the same lake where Biollante first reaches her rose form.